For the first time since the outbreak of the Syrian conflict, Israel has used Turkish military bases for its strikes against Syria. Now, that's according to RT's sources. Let's head over live to our Middle East correspondent, Paula Slier, now joining us live here. And Paula, good morning to you from Moscow. Can you bring us up to speed here? What do you know?
Well, what we are hearing from our RT sources is that Israel used Turkish military bases to strike on Syria. Now, in early July, there was a pre-dawn attack on the Syrian port in the city of Latakia that allegedly targeted Russian-made Yakont anti-ship missiles. U.S. officials, speaking on condition of anonymity, said that this attack on this weapons depot was carried out by Israeli fighter jets. It happened not far from a Russian base. There is suspicion that Israel was responsible from various quarters. What we do know is that in that attack, several Syrian troops were killed or wounded. Now, no one has officially claimed responsibility for those strikes, and the Israeli government has declined to comment. There is confusion as to what exactly happened. We're also hearing reports that the attack was carried out by long-range missiles, or could have been carried out by long-range missiles that were fired from boats in the Mediterranean. What is important is that the attack, from the reports we have from our sources here in RT, originated on the Turkish side of the border. Our sources telling us that Israeli planes left a military base inside Turkey and approached Latakia from the sea to make sure that they stayed out of Syrian airspace so that they could not become a legitimate target for the Syrian Air Force. This, if true, is yet another brazen Israeli attack on a foreign country without any declaration of war. And it would be the fourth attack on Syria by Israel just this year alone.
Paula, if you would just take us back for a minute here. Israel and Turkey, they haven't exactly been the best of friends in recent years, have they?
No, Israel and Turkey have not been the best of friends in recent years. We had the flotilla incident back in 2010 in which 9 people were killed. That was condemned internationally. And although there were conflicting reports as to exactly what happened, Israel never stepped forward with an apology until March. And when Israel did apologize, Turkey accepted the apology. There was a lot of fanfare and international coverage made over that. But it was really surprising because the two countries were really at odds. At the time, Turkey recalled its ambassador, it suspended ties with Israel. And what we see now is a sudden change of heart in Turkey towards Israel. This is a very unusual regional development because you have both regional powers who looked at odds with each other, and then we have this recent information about cooperation of an attack inside Syria. Now, it might be a real surprise for many of our viewers how deeply embedded Israel and Turkey at one stage were. The two countries had very close relations in the 1990s, particularly military cooperation. All of that deteriorated after the flotilla incident. There can now be legitimate questions asked about the sincere motivation for the apology that Israel gave over that flotilla incident. Questions need to be asked how and why an Islamic country like Turkey is allowing its arch-enemy Israel to use Turkish bases to bomb another Muslim nation. And no doubt there is going to be massive fallout for Turkey because of this cooperation with Israel.
All right, the latest on this breaking news here on RT with Paula Slier live from Tel Aviv. Thank you. Now, if this is indeed this month's Latakia strike, proving to be the Israeli Defense Force's possibly fourth attack against Syria in 6 months, let's take a look now at the stats here, back at some of the previous air raids. Here we have it. A military compound just outside Damascus was bombed from the air on January 31st. There we go, the beginning of 2013. And a second similar operation reportedly happened on May the 3rd as well. Now, that's when rockets struck a warehouse at Damascus International Airport, allegedly containing surface-to-air missiles. Now, just 2 days later, massive blasts were then described as earthquake-like. They shook the same military base that was targeted in January. On all occasions, the attacks were justified as operations to wipe out Iranian missiles bound for Hezbollah. But Middle East expert and historian Tariq Ali, he says Israel is looking to get square with Hezbollah by ultimately trying to choke the Syrian regime.
Israel's motivation, as always, to show the Arabs both inside Israel and outside, look, this is how tough we are. We can hit any target in the Middle East that we want, and no one can do anything about it. This is a country which is above the law, or considers itself above the law, and its United States masters and its European friends will do nothing to stop it. I have very little doubt that the Israelis informed the United States that they were going to attack Latakia. Hezbollah is like a Red Bull to the Israelis, and the Israelis haven't been able to wipe it out, though they've tried many a time. They're now hoping that they can do it by completely weakening or destroying the Syrian regime. The Syrian state could break up or be completely destroyed. So they're not unaware of what is happening in that country. And indirectly, I would say, yes, they are providing help to the rebels.